Hi, I'd like to know which version of Cylon Number Six was your favorite to play and why she was your favorite.
Somebody asked me this yesterday. It's hard to say. If I had to choose one, I would say Caprica 6, just because she was the one that started the story. She's the one with the love affair with Baltar. She ended up with Baltar in the end, and she was the one that started with Baltar. So her storyline is throughout the entire series. But just for acting, you know, I think Gina was a real favorite of mine, because it was kind of the start. I played Shelley Godfrey in one episode prior, but Gina was really the start of the multiple characters for me, and I was getting really tired of playing Head Six at the time, because she didn't, even though I loved playing her, I played her for a season and a half at that point, and she didn't really have a storyline of her own. And kind of what you had talked about earlier, the nobody else sees her, and kind of some of the technical stuff we had to do to portray that, you know, it gets a little tiring. Like, oh, nobody else is here. The same, you know, ha. So it was getting a little tiring. So to be able to get those other characters, and then one especially so rich and deep with, you know, I talked to Ron Moore. I was like, can I bring in? I wanted to layer her with PTSD, and I thought it was interesting to bring in that angle that these robots were humanoid enough that they could suffer PTSD and things like that. So there was a lot more to do as an actor than what I had been given so far. So to me, that character stands out a lot for me. And then another favorite of mine was actually Natalie in the 4th season, the one that was trying to broker peace. She had a lot more of a political bent to her, and then Boomer shot her for no reason. But those, I think, were probably my 3 favorites.
Thank you. Those are my 3 favorite versions of 6 also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you done any motion capture in video games?
I actually have not ever done motion capture. I've had, like on Halo ODST, they did try and make Commander Dare look like me, so you had all the camera shots, like, you know, basically every part of your face imaginable. I've had that where but I haven't actually been in the suit with all the dots. No.
How did you wind up doing voiceover work? How did that come about?
I got started in voiceover work because of Battlestar. My first video game was Command & Conquer, which was actually live action, right? It wasn't, I mean, it was more like being on set, because we were actually in the sets, in costume, and it was me on the game. But they were fans of Battlestar, and they thought it'd be cool to have Number 6. I think Grace Park was also in that. And then it really was because a lot of the producers or writers of video games happened to be fans of Battlestar. So that's how I got my start. Was I got offered a few games that were just because they liked my work in Battlestar. And then from that, then you get to know some voice directors, and you know, I did Green Lantern, the animated movie Green Lantern, because the voice director I'd worked with on a video game, and she thought I'd be great for Boudica. So you just start to make connections, and then people. I actually haven't done a video game for a while. I did quite a few of them in a row, and so I probably kind of maxed out for a little bit there, but I'm looking forward to do some more.
Going back to 6, Head 6, the scenes where you're where 6 is climbing all over Baltar, you're in a room full of people. I mean, did that ever get routine? It seems to me like, I asked Jamie Bender this question once, and I said, how weird is it when she's climbing all over Baltar and you have to stand there and pretend nothing's happening? Meanwhile, and he's twitching and he's doing the whole routine, so how crazy was that? I guess the first couple of times, did it ever become normal?
It definitely did become normal. It was probably harder on the other characters, the other actors in the room than James and I, because James and I were actually doing it, right? But, you know, if we're all in a scene and you're not supposed to see me, but I'm talking, like the natural reaction, the human reaction is for you to look at, you know, you just like, oh, you hear a voice, you turn. And they couldn't do that because that would give it away, right? And then also not to laugh at James and what he was doing, right? Sometimes it'd be hard for them not to laugh. But once they got, once you train your mind enough, and they were like, they became pros at it, where they would just, it's almost like they wouldn't freeze, but it was almost like, and they know that a lot of the time, like with film and television, it's like a lot of the time, if it's your coverage, the camera's on you the entire scene. But you're not going to be on, because of editing, they're going to be on somebody else, right? And maybe they'll flash to you for a reaction or whatever. But actors usually hate it when there's a lot, when they're on camera a lot for a close-up, but they know they're not actually going to be in the edit that way. And we call it egg on our face. Like, I'm just sitting here with egg on my face. Like, can we cut it, like that type of thing. So there was a lot of that where they would feel like they had egg on their face because they're like, I know the camera's not going to be on me, but I'm just standing here. If it's a wide shot, they're like, I can't look at her, I can't look at her. But they all became real pros at it. And then when you'd have somebody new come in, like when Richard Hatch came in, and you'd see everybody go through their process of figuring out how to do it. And I remember Richard Hatch's first scene, and James and I was kind of leaning over top of Richard Hatch and kind of leaning on his shoulder and whispering to Baltar, and Richard kept forgetting his lines, and he's just like, it's so hard, because I'm like physically leaning on him, and he's got to pretend I'm not there. So yeah, it was very difficult, especially for the other actors in the room. And then for the challenge for me was, and I've done this on panels before, so some of you may have seen it, but it is still kind of funny. It's again, some of it was done in editing, where you would do a pass where I'm in it, and then you do a pass where I'm off camera, like I'm behind the scenes, and I'm saying my lines, so that they can get show that I'm not in the room. But that takes more time, right? Because you have to do it multiple times, and so a lot of times we would try and do it just on the fly, not in editing, where they choose the, and put it all together, is I would actually physically be like following the camera. So if I'd say I'm sitting on Baltar's lap, right? And I'm saying, da, 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 and then the camera kind of goes.
Wait, am I not supposed to be reacting?
And then the camera goes this way, and then I don't say anything for a while. So then I'd get up, and I'd be following behind the camera, trying not to trip over the cords, and then somebody moves, and then the camera backs up, and I get hit in the head, and then like I'm going around following the camera, and then it goes along here, and the camera goes over here, and then all of a sudden I duck back, and I'm here, and I say my next line. Or I'd be hiding behind a chair, or a desk. Like all of a sudden I'd be underneath the desk, and I'd have to, somebody else's line. I know the camera's on them, and you work it out with the camera guys and everything. And then all of a sudden, in that one split second that they're somewhere else, Baltar. So it was hard because I would get hit in the head a lot from the camera. I would trip over the cords. I would, you'd have that. You'd be up here, and then it would be like, okay, and you have to look like you've been sitting there the whole time, and you also then sort of feel like you're also disjointed from the scene because you were hiding behind the desk. You didn't see maybe the look in somebody's eye or the way they moved something, and that maybe you would play off of. You know what I mean? Because you're hiding, so you don't feel like you're actually fully in the scene. So it was challenging on both sides, but we all got used to it.
Amazing answer. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for bringing Richard into it. You did the show. That's all of us. We love Richard. That's all parts.
We all did as well. He was a wonderful man.
One of the most interesting parts of Battlestar Galactica was the morality of the show and the various characters and sort of the morality playing off itself. How did you think about and process through the morality of Six, especially once you were several different Sixes?
Well, one of the things with Battlestar is the writing was so good. Like we had so much to play with, and it was also a very collaborative show. The most collaborative show I've ever been on. Where sometimes it would drive the crew crazy because we'd be sitting there and I don't know how much about the actual filming process but for each scene, you block the scene first, which is you all come in, and, you know, the main, not all the crew, but the kind of the heads of each department, and the actors and the director, and you're all there, and you talk through. It's like, okay, well, this is, I'm going to move over here, and you discuss how you're going to do the scene, and then you rehearse it and whatever. And a lot of times with Battlestar, we would sit there for an hour afterwards and discuss the actual, the meaning of the scene and what's going on and the morality and everything, and the crew would be like, we gotta go home tonight at some point, like, you know? But there was so much of that went on, but it was also so richly there in the scripts to begin with, that, and we were also based off of a show, an original show, and, you know, personally, and just breaking it down for each character, it's really about that individual character and what, you know, so I knew, like you said, you know, about killing the baby, like, yeah, I knew from the beginning that I was supposedly the bad guy, right? But I couldn't look at it from that perspective because I was looking at it from a Cylon perspective, right? So you have to take out your own judgment as Tricia or as a human being or whatever, for any character you play. Battlestar was just so ripe with every character dealing with all these issues. But for any role that you do, you have to, you know, I've played serial killers. I'm not one, you know, but... That's
what a serial killer would say.
Yeah, but, you know, you have to look at the, you know, you have to play it from that character's perspective, right? And so the morality changes for each character you're playing because you're looking at it from that perspective. If you look at it from your own personal perspective, then that's going to bleed in, and it's not going to be true to the character, right? Thank you.
Look, I remember you came to shore leave between, I think, the first and second seasons, and you were mentioning how your hair was being damaged by being so blonde, and so I was wondering, how long did it take for you to recover from that?
Yeah, so when I did the miniseries, it was originally written, the character had a short black bob, sort of like Carrie-Anne Moss in The Matrix. And then when I was cast, I had kind of shoulder length, light brunette hair. And Michael Reimer saw a modeling image of me that I had very light hair, not white, but the way the light was, it looked very light. And he was like, oh, that's this angelic image, like that's what I want. So they decided to dye my hair white. And so we did that for the miniseries, and then when we came back a year later to shoot the series, I asked them, I was like, because then I put my hair back to a normal color, because there's not so many roles that you can play with white hair, right? I mean, it's like Gwen Stefani, or a rocker, or you're a stripper, or you're a robot, you know, but not too many roles have white hair, you know. And I asked for a wig, and they said no. And so the first season they dyed it again, and then I had to, then afterwards I played a movie with Billy Zane, and I had to dye it brunette, and then so the second season coming back, I'm like, guys, my hair is really, it's not going to last. And I'm naturally like a light brunette, so every 10 days we had to dye it, because you would start to see the roots coming. So every 10 days it was being done with a needle nose, like applicator, and it would cross over, and in the second season, if you watch the beginning of the second season, I remember when I had it dyed, I fought for it the second season. I was like, please, you guys, can you give me a wig? And like, no. So they go have it dyed, and then I go to set, and it was just this fuzz. And I remember Michael Reimer looking at me, and he was like, oh. And it was just this weird texture, and, you know, the hair, they made it look good, but every episode it starts to get a little shorter, and a little thinner, and a little shorter, and a little thinner, because my hair was falling out, and was breaking off. And it was the Gina episode, right before Pegasus, the Pegasus episodes. They sent me to get my hair dyed, and I show up at work the next morning, and the hairdresser brushes through my hair, and a quarter of the hair on the top of my head just went, and I had all these little spikes. And they had to overnight a wig. They had to pay for a wig to be done overnight. And so the first scenes with it is Gina, and then they tried to put some color into my hair because it was this white, like, weird mess, and they chopped it all off. But if you look closely, it worked for Gina because she was supposed to be kind of tortured in this prison cell, so she wasn't supposed to look good. And I asked them, can we buzz it? But they wouldn't let me buzz it. So I had to live for a few months with it just broke, like, chunks off the top of my head and everything. So they tried to put this color in it, but then if you dye your hair white, and the color won't stay, so then it would just kind of be this greenish gray. And the first scene of the wig is the number 6 talking to Baltar, looking at Gina tied up on the floor of the jail cell. And that's also why the 6s started looking different. I said to them, I was like, let me have this messed up hair for Gina. It'll add to the character, add to the kind of distress of the character, and she won't look as glamorous. And so at the end of that season, I cut it all off into a pixie cut to try and recoup the hair and make it grow out healthy. And yeah, so your hair gets damaged a lot in shows, but that's the season, that's the episode that it all fell out and I had to overnight a wig. Yeah.
Okay, one more question, then we're going to do some follow-up, and we'll wrap it up.
And my hair right now, actually, this is the length of my hair. I've got extensions in. I had short hair a week ago.
I'm glad that your hair worked out. Hi, my name is Maggie. I'm a fan of Lucifer, and I am really happy that you guys got another season. Yay! I'm also...
Right? That's fantastic.
I'm also obsessed with my cat, and I follow you on Instagram, and I know that you have cats, and I was wondering, where did you get your cats? Like, where did you find them?
Well, I am a huge animal advocate, and I am also a big proponent for adopting and rescuing. And so all my cats, I've had 15, I've had 13.
All at once?
Yes, no, 13, 13 all at once. And then 2 passed away of old age, and then I rescued some more, and then I had another. Right now, I don't have that many, but I still have a lot. They're all rescues. They're all from shelters. There's 2. One was found, and then he's since passed away. He passed away last year when I was flying home from Dragon Con. And one that I have now, Summer, my husband actually saved her life from a dog trying to kill her when she was 7 weeks old. So there's a couple that we've actually just gotten that way. But the rest are all adopted from shelters.
This is a perfect segue because you have a charity.
I do, and I think you guys might like it. I'm not just like going to say, hey, help animals. But there's a Battlestar theme to it. So next Saturday is one of the shelters that a lot of my cats are adopted from. Is this small volunteer-run organization in Los Angeles called Kitten Rescue, and their annual fundraiser is going on next weekend. They have one a year, and it's called Furball. And so I've donated a couple of items to the online auction, and for the last couple of years, the online auction has not been just for the people in the room, but also, around the country and worldwide. And so this year, one of the items I donated is Katie Sackhoff, Starbuck, and myself did a calendar, a couple of calendars, and we did one image. It's called Entwined. I don't know if you've seen it, but we're naked. And we're hugging each other. It's actually a beautiful piece of art, quite frankly. And it's actually, the photographer has it in a gallery. It's a huge, 10 by 12 or whatever image in this photography gallery in Los Angeles. But we signed, it's a beautiful, it's about that big. And it's a metallic type print. It's a black and white, and we've signed it, and it's the first one that we've actually signed and are donating. I have one hanging in my house, but so that's going to be on the auction, and I will tweet out on Instagram. I think by tonight, both items are going to be up on the auction site, so I will tweet out the links if anyone is interested. But the other thing that I donated is. One of the producers that works for Battlestar had a bunch of Battlestar kind of memorabilia and stuff, and I said, do you have anything left over? And she had a script. I think it's the season 3 finale script that she had all the lead cast sign. So I have, it's the script, with on the cover is 14, the lead 14 cast. Everyone from Eddie, Mary, everyone, Lucy Lawless is on there as well, Michael Trucco, Tomo, Katie, Jamie, James, Michael Hogan, 14 of us are on there. And it's also going to come with a 10-minute Skype session of James Callis and myself. So if anyone's interested in that, that's going to be online, and I will tweet it out, and all the profits go to Kitten Rescue.
That's fantastic. So let's give a big round of applause. Tricia Helfer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming to Baltimore.
You guys have been wonderful. I think Zach Levi's up next, right? Yes. Yes. Give him a hard time.